Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it.
Charlie Kirk got shot and killed. How do you feel?
Happy. That's good. Well, someone had to do it.
The day before Kirk was killed by a sniper at Utah Valley University, a survey found that 34% of American college students believe that it is acceptable to use violence to stop someone from speaking on campus. Another recent poll showed 20% of Gen Z agreed that violence can sometimes be justified.
In light of the death of Charlie Kirk, can America still be the land of the free and the home of the brave? That's the major question that we as Americans now have to face. So today we will be answering that and discussing the state of our country with you. But first, let's do a little introduction. I'm your host, Annette.
And I'm your co-host, Wes. And this is our director, Daniel. He tells us what to do and when to do it.
Here at the FFL, it stands for Faith First, Family Always, and Liberty for All. Has the death of Charlie Kirk changed anything?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of people that have just gotten tired of it. You know? They've realized that we just can't continue on the path that we're on. Mm-hmm. And they're just, it's funny because we're stealing a saying that the left has being woke. Well, it's kind of like people have really woken up to this leftist agenda and just how crazy they've been, and we're not putting up with it anymore.
I hadn't thought of it like that actually until you just said that, like right now.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point. So what would you say is our evidence for saying, has America really woken up, or has it just been like a moment where we said, we're going to be different? Like, what differences are you noticing?
Well, for one, I mean, we can look at the Turning Point stuff, 60,000 applications,
For new chapters.
Yeah. Within a couple weeks. I mean, it's crazy.
And if we look back at Charlie Kirk's vision, hearing him speak about things in the past, his goal was 20,000 chapters. Mm-hmm. And that's amongst high school and college campuses.
Right.
So now, in light of this, we've greatly surpassed that initial goal that he had. Bravo to Erica Kirk for being a champion and stepping up. Nobody would blame her if she was just at home grieving with her kids and family. But yeah, I definitely think that's a big difference. Just seeing the turnout at his memorial service.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a lot of people.
They could not fit everyone in there. If you guys look on the news and see what certain news and media stations were saying, they were saying, a lot of people showed up.
Hundreds of people.
There were hundreds. There were thousands, or they'd say there were thousands. And I was like, that can't be right. I don't believe that at all. Because if I go to a memorial, like we're here in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we're a pretty big city. I didn't make it out to one for our city specifically, but we went to one in a neighboring city.
Monroe, yeah.
Yeah. And there were hundreds of people there. I was like, there's no way only hundreds showed up.
And that was little tiny Monroe. I mean...
Yeah. And so when you look at the actual numbers, they filled out that entire stadium. And we can tell that because they were sending people away. I believe the number was that they fit 100,000 into that stadium. And they believe they turned away roughly 100,000 more people.
Yeah, that
you can see the crowds, like when you look online and watch the videos. So the turnout, the chapters, I think even conversations with families and different groups that we're involved in. Let's put a pause on this so we can find a big babysitter for him. Called a big sister also.
Look at like these people that were celebrating Charlie's death online, and then they were getting fired the next day. So companies were just saying, that's enough. It's enough is enough. Like it's one thing for us to be like, oh, you want us to call you a she, okay, but you're literally celebrating the assassination of a 32-year-old guy who has a wife and kids. I mean, It's ridiculous.
For me, that was just as big as his death. Definitely was the reaction. Like, the death in and of itself was quite a shock to the core. Just seeing somebody that just wants to go out into the public square, just speak to people civilly. Like, he was never telling anybody to hurt anybody. It was quite a shock. But it was a double shock to see the number of people celebrating it. I wouldn't have been surprised if there was just like a couple of videos and everybody was highlighting these like 2 or 3 or 4 videos that were online, but it was a lot. I, in fact, saw somebody that I follow, I can't think of her name, but she is big in the pro-life movement, and she goes to college campuses as well and talks about, like, does debates on the topic of abortion, and she announced in the moment that it happened, so they didn't like go home and think about this and think, aha, now it would be funny to post a video. It was in the moment. She got a message on her phone and she goes, oh my gosh, my friend was shot. She said Charlie Kirk was just shot. And then somebody started laughing, like a couple people started laughing. And she said, are you laughing because my friend was shot? He's probably going to die. And she wanted to point out how evil and how corrupt that was. And they doubled down. The audience, several people in the audience, they were like, yeah, we laughed, so we don't care.
Charlie Kirk was just shot at his campus in Utah. Why are you laughing? He is my friend.
I definitely have friends that said they saw people laughing at the video. They personally saw it. And then it's like, I know online I saw people at college campuses laughing left and right. That was a big wake-up call to me to see the number of people.
It's disgusting. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Like,
to have the audacity to think that it's okay and acceptable to laugh at something like that.
He never incited violence. He never, told people to hurt anybody. None of that stuff. It was literally a guy just voicing his opinion in a respectable way. He didn't overtalk people. He didn't yell at people. He didn't cuss at people. And then they're laughing and enjoying the fact that he's dead.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I think that does bring us to some of our further points as well. Has the left gone too far? And you bringing up the Hitler thing just makes me think of, it has a lot to do with the leadership. Because that's what they've been calling all of us, not just Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And so that's why it was another shock to me. Like, it's somebody so similar in so many ways to, things that I think are great values and great character to have that Charlie Kirk displayed. But the Hitler point is that they called all of us Nazis. Anyone that voted for Trump was a Nazi. So if you're running around with that rhetoric, constantly repeating that they're Nazis and Trump is Hitler,
Trump's a criminal.
Charlie Kirk's a neo-Nazi, whatever that means, new wave of Nazis, then would it not be a good thing to take somebody out like that? Was it really like, we call it the extreme left? They are extreme, but are they now extreme? Like, this is what used to be the extreme, used to just be a handful of people. But now, because the leadership has catered to that handful of people and it's grown, or maybe because it grew, then the leadership started going along with it because they want those votes. But now we have so many leaderships and people in leadership in the Democratic Party that are saying these things repetitively and saying, we need to do something about this. You guys need to go out and do something. These are Nazis. What do you think you're asking them to do if you're calling us Nazis?
Yeah, it's quite crazy.
Yeah. So has the left gone too far?
I mean, I think so. I mean, it's...
And give us some examples, like, other than the calling us Nazis, what are some other extreme things that have gone too far?
Well, I mean, like, we can look at, like, Chicago.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look how bad that has gotten over there with crime and the rhetoric over there. And then we look at states like California, where literally, like, you can't own guns. They just blacklisted, like, everything. Like it's almost illegal to own a handgun there now because of the new laws that Gavin Newsom has put in, right? They have a list of approved firearms that you're allowed to have, and they just removed Glock off of that.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a really big deal. And then, we have things like Congress, that the thing we were just talking about with the Anti-Political Violence Act or whatever like that they were doing.
There was a resolution that Congress wanted to pass after Charlie Kirk died, and it was mainly to state that it was to condemn political violence. So it did talk about Charlie Kirk as well, but the goal was to bring everybody together to condemn political violence. And just to give you an example, that this is a common move that they'll make to honor the person that died and to stand together. This should be something easy that is to stand together on. It should be non-bipartisan. But they did it, for example, with a Democrat that had been killed earlier this year, her and her husband. She was a state representative of Minnesota, Melissa Horton. And when she passed away, her and her husband were shot dead. They had a similar bill to condemn political violence. And the outcome of the vote on that bill was unanimous. Everyone, Democrats and Republicans alike, they all voted yes on that bill, which is the way we would think that should be an easy yes. Now, when Charlie Kirk died, somehow this wasn't as easy of an answer. It was, we're going to condemn political violence. And the number, it surprised me again. It's like I shouldn't be shocked. But it wasn't just 2 or 3 or 5 people that voted no. In total, 118 Democrats did not vote yes to this bill. 58 outright voted no. And then the rest of the 118 was either did not vote or voted present. So they refused to condemn this act of violence against someone. And so just seeing that they could, like, it's so in your face now, and it's so many people, when it should be just something straightforward. So seeing that, I think, shows us how much of the leadership has gone so extreme. That's more than half of the standing Democrats in the House right now. There's 214, and 118 of them could not vote yes on this bill.
Yeah. I mean, if I remember correctly, there's been several Democrats over the last few years that have just outright said that, like, people that vote for Trump are, racist or bigots or whatever like that. And it's like,
always, but just to go to the point of killing someone and you still can't say that's wrong, that's bad, let's not do it. That was an even deeper level, and it's a wake-up call for all of us.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think some other issues that they've gone too far on that we're all aware of is the trans ideology. I think we were starting to fight against that before Charlie Kirk even died. I think it was becoming more known how much this was affecting the kids of America, especially when they were growing up and seeing how this harmed them. So we were starting to head a little bit in the right direction, but now we're seeing that it's not just one thing, and it's not just a few people that are extreme. It's most of the Democrat Party has gone woke, and now we need to wake up. We need to be awake. Let's maybe not call it woke. Let's be awake, be alert. So the only way, they always say the only thing that it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to stand down.
Right.
So we need to stand up, be alert, be awake. Okay, so then our next point of contact here is, can we still come together as a country? Is it possible with them being so extreme? How do we look at that as a country?
I mean, we can look at, like, prior major events. Now, I'm not going to say that, like, Charlie Kirk's death is a terrorist attack like 9/11, but when we look back at 9/11 or other major events like that, you can see a surge in patriotism and togetherness. You know, like when 9/11 happened, we were
flags on everyone's
flags were everywhere. The nation was together. Crime had dropped. You know, songs come out the wazoo about America being, you know, land of the free and the home of the brave and how we were together and everything. So I definitely think that we can still come together as a nation. I do feel like there does need to be a push for it. And, you know, we as a nation need to come together and realize that we are our own communities. You know, we have to work together, be a part of everything together. We can't just have this big divide all the time and be like, oh, my feelings trump your feelings. Like, you know.
I'm going to push back against that a little bit, and going back to what we were saying about them being so extreme and it not just being a handful of people. I think that at this time, it's funny how the left had said, let's come together right after this happened, but they couldn't even come together, the leadership, on a very straightforward bill. So for me, I think that what this means and the change that needs to happen in our country is that we cannot come together with evil. If you are going to outright stand against the foundations that this very country was built upon, we are not coming together with you. We are not going to put up with it. You are either going to realize that that's unacceptable, that is not America, that is not American values, or I think that enough of us can, like you're saying, come together. If we're standing for the right things, it has to be in standing for good. And how that relates to America as a country is because we actually were founded on this. We're founded on Judeo-Christian values, and primarily Christian values, because when the founders wrote the Constitution, they said that this can only work for a country of good standing, like people of good moral, of good Christian morals. If you get rid of the morals, the Constitution no longer works. Then we have to shift to, let's get it to do what we want it to do, and let's not use it, because on the left, they will use as much power as they can to get anything accomplished that they want. And then when it comes to our turn, when we finally realize we don't like the way things are going and Republican gets back in the office, we're like, well, let's not do that, because if we make that precedence, then the left will then use this extra power and use it for this. No, we need to use the Constitution and the laws the way that they're designed to be used. Use them for good. If Trump says we're going to go out and we're going to bomb this ship because it's attacking us, or what was the story with the...
Yeah, so there's a drug cartel that were coming up from Venezuela, and Trump ordered a strike on that ship in international waters.
So previously we never used it on drug cartels, whatever the law or the standing was that he used to do that. And so a lot of people were like, I don't know if Trump should be doing this because, then the left's going to use this power somehow for their advantage. Well, the thing is, we need to use the laws for good to protect and defend the country,
right,
to protect our liberties, to protect our First Amendment rights. So otherwise we're just going to be wasting time when we get into office. We need to push forward the good, the moral, the liberties. And then we need to push it forward so much, either hopefully we get enough people on our side, or it doesn't get completely destroyed when it flips back. Okay, so that said, I do think there's a lot of people that are never going to stand for right, and we're going to have to just make them not as big of a part of society, like you said about people getting fired, or just not tolerate it. Yes, allow them to speak. They have the right to their opinions, but we don't have to then say what they want to hear afterwards. We can say what is right and what is good. We don't have to pretend like it's not good because it makes you feel bad. So that brings us to our next important thing here. What does this mean for us and our family? What kind of changes do we want to see, and what does this mean for us?
Yeah, so I mean, we've done and are doing several things right now. One, start this YouTube channel.
This is a big thing. I've been wanting to start this for what, years at least.
Yeah.
And it's always just not been the right time. We have always had young kids in the family, and we wanted to keep that going with our third. So just to be able to find the time to do this and prioritizing it, I think was the key changing point.
Yeah. And on top of doing this, and hopefully encouraging others to do stuff like this or to get more involved with local stuff, we are getting involved with local politics. We've joined several different groups. I know I've signed up with the Young Republicans for Charlotte, as well as Gaston County. Me and you are attending several different Republican groups. We actually Valen told you that we are going out on November 4th, and not only are we voting, but we're going to be at the election polling places, overwatching and looking out, making sure everything's going smoothly.
I was glad when I heard about this yesterday. I was like, okay, well, at least it's something that I was already thinking about doing. But next time, make sure we're both free on that day. Or I'm going to be volunteering him some stuff after the show. Getting more involved, and also just, we already were at a point in our lives where we realized we need to keep the kids knowledgeable and understanding, and also guided on what's right and wrong politically, and what our thoughts are on it, and helping them to formulate their opinions as well. Because when they were younger, our oldest daughter was going to school, and she was coming home. This was at a time where I was like, don't get kids involved. Let them be kids. They don't need to hear about politics. And she was coming home and telling me some ideas, and I was like, whoa, let's sit down and talk about this. And that's when I realized, okay, if I don't tell my kids anything, somebody else is going to be giving them ideas.
Yeah.
And we have to provide that information and education, or somebody else is going to fill in the gap.
Yeah. It used to be, you just didn't talk to your kids about it. Now it's just to the point, you've got to. Because, we want our kids to be involved when they're 18, to go vote and be a part of society and do things like being part of other these Republican groups or whatever. But we're not teaching them how to do that, and how to research and find out and stand by your morals. We're not teaching them any of that stuff. So I definitely think that is a big thing, and I'm real big on teaching the kids patriotism, how to respect the flag, the kind of things to do when you're saying the national anthem, like taking off your hat or whatever like that, right? It kind of makes me think, all of this lately, it makes me think that we've been like a bundle of sticks, like dry sticks, and all we've needed was this one little spark, this one little bit of heat to get us on fire and roaring and going.
Yeah, and I don't want to look at it as we weren't doing nothing at all. So maybe there was something.
There was an ember. There's a little bit of ember there.
But it needed some fuel.
Yeah.
Because
somebody went and blew on the fire.
I think we were doing good with teaching and directing and raising our kids as morally as we know how to do, and biblically, teaching them godly principles. But I wanted to start moving and taking action. And this, like you said, this was the fuel that we needed to get that fire really going.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've talked about what this means to us personally, what do we think this can mean for other people? And what can you do with you and your family to get involved and make a difference in your home and in your communities? What are some ideas?
So first thing, reach out to some local chapters. It doesn't...
For Turning Point?
Yeah, for Turning Point, for the Republican Party, almost every major city, and a lot of the small cities, cities like Stanley and Iron Station have it too, where you can go and look at, the Republican website, for the GOP, and you can find yours, the closest party to you, and you can go start being a part of that. Mm-hmm. Start volunteering for your local Republican groups and just start getting into stuff.
And also what I want to say is, don't overwhelm yourself. Obviously, we just have ideas and suggestions. You guys put in the comments what you think might be easiest for a family or a mom or a dad to get started doing, what I would say is just do one thing. You just want to start with one thing, because we started with one thing that was going to make a change in our lives. And honestly, it didn't have to do with any of this specifically, or politics or anything. We just noticed that after he died, we saw the clip of Charlie Kirk saying how he took a Sabbath every week.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference in his life. It helped him to fulfill all of his other obligations, his roles and responsibilities as a father, as a citizen, like all of the things he was trying to accomplish with his company and organizations. It just made things flow. It gave him the ability, because if you take that time to reset, you can think more clearly and you have the energy to take action. So honestly, like taking that, we just did ours on Sunday. We set a few guidelines to give us an idea of what it should look like. We got the house all cleaned up on Saturday. I know if you moms out there are anything like me, you can't like function, you can't relax if you don't have a nice environment. At least for me, that's how I am. So that is what set us up to get to this point, because I don't know if we never did that Sunday. We've been doing it for almost a month now. If I would have been able to plan and actually find the time to do this, is weird, because I'm taking more time to relax, and now I have more time somehow. It just gave us a reset. Yeah, helped me organize my thoughts.
Yeah, something like that. It just helps you to set your day right, set your week straight, and stay on task the entire time.
We did say, like, you don't want to be too strict on it. We did say Sunday night, it's okay to like start planning our week, but we're not going to be like trying to clean out clousets or any extra chores. We can clean up after ourselves, and then Sunday night we can kind of like set up for the next week. That said, I also want to say, mom to mom, any mamas out there, just like I said, pick one thing, but also do not wait for perfection. I think perfection is the hindrance. It's the enemy of movement. Mm-hmm. So perfection, I think, always is going to slow us down. I know I've been trying to make this, as good as I can, but the entire time I've told myself it's not going to be perfect. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for good enough where I can feel like, okay, I'm putting something out there that matters and, I'm not embarrassed about. But don't look for the perfect time. Don't look for the perfect setup. Don't look for the perfect financial situation. Just say, okay, this is the one thing that I'm going to have as my top priority to start doing. And then ask God, give it to God, and he'll help you get there.
Yeah.
I really, truly believe that. In light of the Charlie Kirk death, can America still be the land of the free and the home of the brave? Is that possible for our country? If we let the violent faction of extremists, that growing faction in our country on the left, to control us, we will become the land of the prisoners and the home of the cowards. That's what the people afraid of free speech want. They want to make us also afraid to speak freely. So they are cowards trying to make the rest of us cowards. And again, if we don't want this to happen, we have to take a stand against it. We can no longer stand idly by. That's what's gotten us into this situation. Trying to be polite, trying to filter the way that we think about things, because your thoughts affect your speech, and that's what they want to control, our thoughts and our speech. And if we continue to filter and shy away from speaking out against things, we don't have to be mean and abrasive, but we do need to speak truth. We can't be too nice. Remember, Jesus was not nice. He spoke truth and he did things with grace, but he was not afraid to speak, and it's not our time to stand down and be afraid either. So let me ask you this final question. Will you stand against it? What's one thing that you will do to make a change today? Stand with us.
Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. stay involved, trust God, and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse, that God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
Little patriot, there's your flag.
Yep.
He's waving his flag. He's ready to go, guys.
He is
He's ready
very
to get
ready.
this conversation started.